Hey, Gabriel Blake.
Hey, Gabriel Jose.
Where are we today?
Today I'm on the West Coast and you are in the Midwest.
Yeah, man. So far, 1,800 miles away. It feels like a wall of distance between us.
I'm gonna write
But
a
our
song.
hearts are still close together.
No, you moved. If those that are listening, listen to the previous few podcasts. So I'm in San Francisco at home, and you are in your home, Chicago.
Yeah, in my new home in Chicago, pretty far from you. And yeah, at this point, oh God, I didn't mention this to you, but we have to discuss later. Did I tell you about my disappointment with Domino's?
You did. I feel like that's the biggest disappointment you've experienced in Chicago. And I saw your Reddit post where you were so upset with your experience at the Chicago.
My 500 upvotes and 700 comments. I got to a point of saying, it's like, just unsubscribe me of this shit. It's like, I'm done. It's like, yeah, I know that there is better pizza from Domino's. You know, it's like, I don't want to know about it. It's like, I just want cheap pizza that doesn't make me puke. That's what we...
You're just inviting people to say, Chicago pizzas are better.
You mean like all the Italians, all the stereotypical Italians that they moved to Chicago, like famous Italians? Okay, yeah. So Mario and Luigi and others, and Salvatore. And who was the director of Cinema Paradiso? Giuseppe Tornasole.
That's the one.
Yeah. And Giuseppe, yeah. But yeah, no, I'm still adapting to everything. At some point, we should also revisit the idea if we want to maybe like rotate one of us like going to a bar that is not too loud, and the other one being at home.
Yeah, I think we could do that. We were pretty successful. One time I lost our mics, and so we recorded using calling in. That was successful. So yeah, maybe we should alternate. You can go to a new dive bar in Chicago, and I can go to the same 3 bars that we always went to here.
I mean, you have to keep your seats on those places now that everything is reopening. So yeah. So what did we watch today?
This week it was your pick, and I can't remember why you picked this, but you picked the 2003/4 film. I don't think it opened in the States till 2004, but came out in 2003 film, Goodbye Lenin. It's German. Wolfgang, I can't remember his last name. Wolfgang Becker directed.
Yeah. So I picked this because we just watched Irreversible, and I wanted something lighter, something a bit more of a comedy, you know? Or that's how I remember this movie. I watched it like many years ago. I think that back in Spain, it was like fairly popular as a dramedy, you know? And I remember like watching it and just feeling this, oh yeah, you know, it had like some moments that they have been creative and funny. My feelings are slightly different this time, but at least I wanted to just bring some kind of counterpoint to what Irreversible was, that it was a bit more of a torture movie.
So just for context, you had seen this before how many years ago?
Like 15 years ago.
And I had not seen this before. We needed to cleanse our palate from Irreversible. And when you picked it, I was like, oh, a lighthearted comedy. It was not that.
Oh no, it's not. It's not. As I told you when I was watching, it's like, holy shit, this is like a drama with 2 jokes in it.
Which I don't think it was. That's not what it was trying to do, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. So as this was my pick, what was this movie about?
So this movie, it's centered around a family, a brother, a sister, and a mother. And it's in 1990, I believe. The brother, the primary character, his name is Alex. He is someone you might recognize. He is German, but he was in Inglourious Bastards, Rush. He's been in films, both European and American films. I actually thought he was in Funny Games for 2 seconds. He was not. So Alex's mother is a good member of the Socialist Party. We find out that her husband ran away to West Germany for his lover, and she stayed, and she never dated again, and she dedicated her life, her relationship, as Alex tells the story, to the Socialist Party, a sexless relationship. And Alex and his sister grow up. they're in their early adulthood, and Alex goes to it was an anti-East Germany, anti-socialist march, where they were protesting their rights to just take a walk in the streets when they want, or like, it wasn't pro-capitalism, it was socialist, not socialism, but the particular brand of socialism that was East Germany. His mother, there's a specific day, his mother is on her way to accept a prestigious award for her work to promote socialism. And he is participating in the march. The march turns into violence, and she is passing by in a cab, and she sees her son being beaten by the socialists, and she ends up having a heart attack. She collapses, and she goes into a coma. And she's in a coma for 8 months, and during that 8 months, basically, this socialism ends, the wall comes down, in West Germany combined, like, so much change happened in this 8 months that it's almost unbelievable. And when you look at it from that perspective, you're like, wow, like, these people's world literally went from night to day. The mother ends up waking up 8 months later, but the doctor says, look, your mother is basically one step away from death, and you have to make sure she doesn't experience any shock at all, because she'll have another heart attack. So mostly,
and they recommend for the mother to stay in the hospital.
They do, but they choose to bring her home.
Yep.
In the meantime, Alex and his sister has rented out her room. They've completely changed everything, and Alex comes to the conclusion that he has to basically lie to his mother and recreate everything, basically, so his mother never finds out the wall fell, that socialism ended, that capitalism won. So he enlists friends to create fake newscasts. They hide any sort of evidence of Western world or the Western culture creeping in, like a Coca-Cola sign. And honestly, that goes on for like an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. At which point I was like, don't show me more ways. I get what they're doing. I get it. I don't know if I want to go too much farther. It'll be a spoiler alert, and I don't think there's any value to what happens in the rest of the film. I will say...
No, I want to discuss like something about the ending. We can skip... Yeah, I mean, the thing that I want to discuss is, an spoiler alert, is like at the end, the mother has like another relapse. Is that she actually goes to the streets, and is that she actually sees like the statue of Lenin, like just flying away, and she just collapsed on the street about like what the heck is going on. So they go to the hospital, and then we see the girlfriend of the main character, that is a nurse, that they fell in love like thanks to just, I don't know, like bonding over the matter. Yeah. And we see the girlfriend telling to the mother that everything was a lie, that actually the wall fell, and this is the reality right now. And then she plays along for the rest of the movie. I mean, there is only like 10 more minutes, but it's like she plays along. She actually knows what is going on, and she's like, yeah, just keep lying to me, that's cute, thank you. And then she dies like 3 days later.
Yeah, so I don't think she collapses on the street, because the brother and sister come and they're like, what the hell, go back home. But then they go to the dacha, and she confesses that their father didn't run away for a woman. And that day is the day she collapsed. She has a second heart attack. And yeah, the girlfriend tells her, and she really literally only has a few hours left to live. And at that point, the mom realizes, wow, my son has gone through such trouble. By the way, her death is imminent at this point. They're like, she's gonna die within a few days. So the mother, I think, is just like, okay, I'm seeing this huge proof of love from my son. I'm gonna let him just think that he saved me from this horrible like trauma. And then the film is like 90% narrated. You hear the son be like, and I think I did a wonderful thing by letting my mother think that socialism lived forever, and I created this fake country for her, a country I'll always associate with her. So I get it. I get that it's socialism, that it was all smoke and mirrors. We get it. I think this film had no idea. Well, I think it knew what it wanted to be. I don't think the direction was strong enough. The script was not. Well, I will say the script could have been strong enough in the hands of the right director. I just think the director wasn't like, hey, is this more a comedy than a drama? Is it more a drama than a comedy?
My feeling when I watched it the first time is that this is mostly a comedy, you know. But this time that I watched it, I think that I focus a bit more on the dying mother, you know, and about like the struggle of the kids, like taking care of a dying mother. And also like the struggle that partially feels like they are interested on getting the money before the deadline of just being able to convert the currency. And it's like how they don't succeed. And that story ends up there, is that they keep taking care of the mother. They don't know how long it's going to last. They have their lives, but they don't want to move on with them because they don't want to leave the mother. So they're a bit more like stuck in place. So nothing about it is fun. The fun is a bit more of some jokes about like, oh, how absurd is this?
It's sad, and I think I don't know why, but the Truman Show comes to mind as like, hey, let's fake a universe, sort of like, and it's a little bit more successful. I mean, everyone around the Truman character is creating this fake universe for her, which is what the son is doing.
I would compare it a bit more with Life is Beautiful from Roberto Benigni. Well, he pretends that everything is a game in the concentration camp.
Actually, the New York Times review of this film did bring up that movie.
Yeah, I mean, they're like similar in ideas, and I think that they're not that far from each other. Oh no, it's like 6 years. Yeah, 97.
The New York Times said that it was trying to be My Big Fat Life is Beautiful, combining My Big Fat Greek Wedding and Life is Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that I never watched My Fat Greek Wedding, but yeah, I can see that the part of comedy coming a bit more from from Life is Beautiful, from that kind of aspect of, okay, I'm going to be like making a terrible situation, I'm going to try to make it funnier. And I think that Life is Beautiful succeeds on making it funnier. I think that this one is still like the sadness remains there, especially when she actually tells about like the story about like, oh yeah, well, actually your father didn't run away with someone else.
Yeah, that was a bombshell that I didn't see coming, and I didn't really see how it added anything, because then you just see these children with this completely demolished relationship with their father, and the father wasn't a bad guy.
No,
the mom was actually kind of a piece of shit. And
well, but I mean, just think that is like, if she actually had told them that is like, hey, look, your father is waiting for us there, but we cannot go there. It's like, what is going to be like changing? What is going to be like just like helping them like moving on with their lives? In no way. It's just a bit more like the regime that they were under. Is like it was completely absolutist.
And again, that's a parallel metaphor. Oh, the woman they trusted that was like their guidance lied to them, and everything was not as it seemed, and they couldn't sustain the lie for very long. Like, I get it. There's a lot of like layers here. But going back to Life is Beautiful is very sad, but it still managed to portray the joy that Roberto Benigni's character tried to create for his children, and we experienced that, and we experienced the sadness of him being murdered. This film didn't get much of anything across. You
didn't find it sad? I mean, I found it like a bit desperate, a bit more like just trying to swim upstream, you know, from the kid, about like, what are you trying to change? What are you trying to accomplish with this? What do you think that is going to be like changing? Your mother eventually, or A, is going to be like discovering the truth, or B is going to die.
It was sad, but like the first 40, and I'm not exaggerating, I watched the time, the first 40 or so minutes is voiceover narration from the perspective of Alex, and I was getting super upset. I was like, this needs to stop. And if you listen to that narration, it's super ironic. It makes all these jokes. Like, it sets this tone of being like, just taking things very lightly, and at the end it's sad, but that like contrast of like true joy and sadness, like in Life is Beautiful, that contrast didn't exist for me here. It just kind of felt like this is gray, things suck, and then the mom dies and their relationship with their dad is over.
Do you think that that's Easter Germany and socialism in general?
I do. I just don't think as a film it successfully did what it was trying to do.
What it was trying to do then?
I think it tried to be funny. It tried to be like not lighthearted. It tried to be a funny satire of the end of East and West Germany. Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, I read it like that. I watched it like that the first time, and this time I think that I focused like way more on the family interaction, and I felt it's like this is terrible. And also there was like almost like a critique from, okay, yeah, in East Germany things were bad, definitely, but it's like now that you guys are like just thrown into a running river that is capitalist and you have to catch up, it's like, where do you stand? Is like she was like going to college, the sister, and it's like she ends up in a Burger King.
I will say that the sister had the most personal growth. Not much, but she had some. I mean, that growth was dropping out of college and getting pregnant out of wedlock twice. But I was super frustrated that Alex didn't grow or change a single bit the entire. No. I was like, why am I supposed to be invested in this person?
Well, I mean, I think that was like part of the point of the movie, that he was like just stuck into, I love my mother, I need to protect my mother, the same way that socialist Germany, East Germany, would be like just, I need to protect my people. I cannot actually just expose them as something like so damaging as capitalism.
And so they work super hard to keep the smoke and mirrors going so they don't see that everything is ruined.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think there is like a bit of a parallelism, you know, from the song, is like inadvertently it's just becoming like the socialist from East Germany. It's not about like, oh, I love this and I believe in this, but it's like you are doing the same thing that East Germany could do normally for them. And they even like joke about it. It's like, oh, well, it's like, it's the yearly, how do you say, like march. And it's like, well, you can just put whatever, because no, is that when they talk about the news, is that they say, is that you can just say whatever. It's like people don't pay attention. You can just reshuffle them because they are not important news. And it's exactly what he does. Is that most of the time he's like, just throw content at her. Is that she's never going to be realizing about it, and he remains on the same spot. No, she doesn't.
The only time she ever gets suspicious ever is when she sees like Western ads for IKEA, Coca-Cola, and she's like, what?
But it's because of all the immigrants that they're running away from capitalism.
That was a funny joke.
That was, yeah. They're looking for more opportunities. Yeah, they want to go. They want to go back to the farms in the field. Yeah, I love that one. But it's like, yep, that's exactly what you're doing.
I do have to call out that I brought a special guest to the podcast, and it's my beautiful bust of Lenin that I bought in St. Petersburg. So,
oh, that's good. Yeah. Did you bring it? Did you actually just get it close for the occasion?
I did, yeah. I so rarely have the opportunity to talk about my bust of Lenin.
Yeah. No, I mean, we have known each other for 9 years, and I had the feeling that this is the first time that you ever introduced me to Lenin.
See, now I had the chance.
Yep. Thank you. Goodbye, Lenin. And hello, Lenin.
I do want to call out the soundtrack. The soundtrack was actually released in America on Virgin Records before the film came out, and I had not seen this film. I think mostly because I was living in Russia when it came out and I wasn't allowed to watch movies. Let's not talk about that. But I did listen to the soundtrack a lot for several years. It's an incredible soundtrack, with some tracks being recycled from Amelie, right?
From what? From Amelie?
Yeah.
I will have to check if there is any overlap. Yeah.
I was like, that's the Amelie soundtrack.
I know that there are some songs from Amelie that they resemble a Romanian artist, and maybe that's the one that they use here, the vodka. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I will have to check it out. But yeah, no, the soundtrack is good. It actually made me think, and I know, like, Save the Distances, it made me think of Run Lola Run.
The soundtrack?
The soundtrack, not from the perspective of the tone, but about like how German directors during the 90s and the early 2000s, they pay attention to music, about like, oh, music is actually part of the experience of just watching something.
Which I do think it is. And the music is very, very, like, it has a strong presence. But I would argue that it didn't exist to tell me how to feel, which I appreciated. Because
No, I think that it was there a bit more like for just portraying the reality, like the transition reality. I think that is good. I mean, I think that it's like one of these movies that it tries to portray a larger topic through a smaller story. And I think that's good, yeah.
But towards the last half of the film, I was actually thinking it reminded me a lot about that Russian film we just saw. Actually, a Soviet film. It was a Russian film about Soviet times, about the accident or the...
Oh, Dear Comrades?
Yes, when I was like, okay, so this isn't about the characters. This is about the fall of the Soviet Union.
Exactly.
I really shouldn't be trying to find interesting things in these characters. And that helped me take a step back and be like, okay, this is about...
Yeah, but what you're saying, for example, about like the character growth is like we see character growth in other characters. It's like we see it on the sister, it's not huge, but it's there. We see it also like even in the girlfriend a bit. About like how she approaches the family, how she actually gets upset about some things, how she actually challenges the reality that the boyfriend is portraying. About like how she actually starts believing about like what is right and what is wrong and acts upon it, and the husband boyfriend of the sister, it starts as a jerk. It doesn't have like too much screen time, but at the end it's a bit more like I will roll with it. I'm trying to be like a better person.
A solid partner and father, which blew me away. I was like, wait, you're one of the more interesting characters.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, that's the reason why I think that is purposefully static, like the character of the song. He's as stuck in time. He's like the one that is stuck in place because of socialism, because of his like that was there. And I know that I may be reading too much, but I think that there is like some parallels there.
I mean, based on this conversation, I'm convinced it's true, and I'm trying to find another metaphor about how he is not mature and he's not doing what's best, but he's trying to do what he thinks is best for his mom. And so I want to figure out how the girlfriend who's like trying to convince him, you need to tell your mom, and he just tells him.
Yep.
Well, I'm a little bit annoyed that this conversation is making me like it a little bit more.
But I mean, that's what these conversations are for. It's like I didn't think too deep into it. I only feel pissed at myself in the past about like, why did you think that this was a comedy? This is not a comedy. I felt depressed watching this. But I think that it's good. I think that it's a good movie. I don't think that it's a stellar movie by any chance, but I understand why it was popular when it was released back in Spain.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because it's a point in time in history that I know a lot about and also know nothing about. Like what it really meant to East and West Germans. That's not something that, you learn in an American high school or college. It was interesting to put some humanity into it.
Yeah. I mean, you can also like just think we watched another movie about similar topic to this. That is The Marriage of Maria Brown. We should watch more Fassbender.
Yeah,
we should. And actually, he ends up the movie with the idea is like if they ever reunite, this is going to end up in tragedy. This is going to end up in another war.
Now you have me thinking about The Marriage of Maria Braun.
It's a good movie. It's a perfect definition of Fassbender about like this is fucking crazy, but he's surprisingly talented. And I think this is more. What I was going to say is like I feel like this is more like well planned, and I think that with more subtle direction and more subtle script, it could have been at the same level of message as The Marriage of Maria Brown. And The Marriage of Maria Brown is like, hey, look, one of them is sister, the other one is Western, and I'm going to be like spelling it on the camera.
When it came out, The Marriage of Maria Braun?
It was the early 80s. It was like before the fall, because he died before the fall of the wall.
it's interesting because Fassbender didn't have the benefit of being
78.
created 12 years after the wall fell. So it's just like very different perspectives on somewhat of the same time, and definitely the same, government system.
Yeah. I mean, it was 78 at that point. There was already like a pretty clear, identified Eastern Germany. It's like he could play with that idea that this director also plays too. It's true that he's like just directed 13 years after the fall of the wall, but he plays with the mentality of this is where socialist Germany ended at.
I took a look at his other films. I haven't seen anything else by him. Have you?
You mean by Wolfgang Becker?
Yeah.
Let me just check. I think that I checked the other day and the answer was no. But
I think so. His most recent film came out in 2015, Me and Kaminsky. I think that was relatively successful here in the States, but I didn't see it.
No, I didn't know what something
It
is.
stars Alex, the same actor that plays Alex, stars in it.
No, I don't know then, unfortunately. No, anything else.
For me, this wasn't a win, but I would be interested in seeing other things by him just to see, because I do think he has, it's not a style, he has a point of view that I'm curious to see how he fulfills in other films.
I do not. Honestly, I know that it's going to sound like pretty bad, but I had the feeling that there was nothing special about the directing, and it was a bit more about like the script, and I think that he had the potential for doing something larger than this, and a bit more like, I don't want to go into the questions, a bit more timeless, and it felt a bit more, it's like, yeah, you're just doing a bit more of a nostalgic trip, and if I dig a bit deeper, I can find like some parallels and some deeper message, but you were not good enough for just driving this home. So I just think that it's like he may be just an okay director.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But still, like thinking about before we started recording, what am I going to score this? Like I thought, at least the attempt is more interesting than an average film. Like there's something there that makes this a little bit special. Not successful, but a little bit special.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that for me, this is like a tiny bit above good. It's like without going into the score. It's like, it's just that there is potential for something more, especially the more that we discuss about it. It's like you could have like dig deeper into it instead of living into this kind of dramedy. Yeah. And it could still be a dramedy, but it's like at least like try to make a point come across. And that's the reason why I mentioned The Marriage of Maria Brown, because like that one, it was about like making the point come across. And Life is Beautiful, it was a bit more about like just making like the corniness and the melodrama to come across. Is that this one, I think that it just fell in between both parts, and at the end it's like, it's not a corny melodrama, it's not a heartwarming movie, but at the same time it's not a ideological movie.
Nope, I agree. I think it tried to be both things, and that effort muddled what we ultimately saw, and it wasn't one, it wasn't the other. It's just, honestly, I would say this film is forgettable. Again, not to go into the questions, I will not remember this film.
All right, let's go over the questions, because I think that we already are like just touching them. Would you watch it again?
No.
I think that I'm going to go with no too. There is nothing that I would say that is like, oh, maybe I miss it. Maybe if I watch it again, I'm going to be like getting the gist of this. No.
There's nothing there to get, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, there could have been, but there is no. Right. Would you recommend it?
I mean, this question is so hard because there is somebody in this world I would recommend this film to under the right circumstances.
What circumstances?
Like, guys, I just somebody who's like, wow, I'd really like to see an early 2000s perspective on the fall of the Berlin Wall.
There has to be like something better than this. I mean, I had to think about it, but I'm pretty sure that there is like something better than this to recommend.
I love that German actor in Inglourious Bastards. Do you know anything else he's been in?
Oh, yeah, Captain America.
Captain America or Goodbye Lenin?
So you say yes, no?
I'm gonna start to answer this question about whether I would recommend it the majority of the time. I would not recommend this. The answer is no.
Okay, no. My answer is no, and it's not because I wouldn't recommend it to my parents. It's because I cannot think of any context that I couldn't have a conversation with. Like, you have to watch Goodbye Lenin, and I don't even know why I brought it up. I think that because I like it like quite a bit the first time that I watched it, and I thought, it's a comedy. So I like comedy, and that's the reason why it always like stay in the back of my mind. Is that it's a comedy that I enjoyed. That's weird because I don't usually enjoy comedies, so I need.
He doesn't like to laugh.
Yeah, I don't. I don't like to laugh with movies. I like to laugh at movies, but that's a different thing. No, let's be cops. But on these cases, I cannot think about it. Any conversation that would end up with me nowadays saying like, you have to watch Goodbye Lenin. I think that after and almost like going into the next question, actually I'm going to be answering now. I think that 6 months from now, I will remember everything, but this is a drama. Be careful.
So personally, I was so bored by the different ways that he was finding to trick his mother. Like, I'm not going to remember anything from about 15 minutes in to an hour and 30 minutes in. Like, it's so forgettable. So I'm going to say no, I will not remember them.
Yeah. Is there anything artistic about it?
The music. The music is fantastic. That's the only thing I would say.
I'm going to say no. That's what I was telling you earlier. Is like I feel like this is so super functional that the music is nice, but I just feel like it's partially functional too. It's like I don't even remember the soundtrack. I mean, maybe because you listen to it like a lot of times. For me, I remember just listening to it. That's been good. Like a good selection of songs.
In 2012 and 2013, this soundtrack was consistently at the most frequently played song lists in Spotify.
Did you listen to it so much as to bring it up to the point?
I used to listen to it reading specific novels, and so when I hear it, I go back to the novels, like because I listened to it so much.
So you're saying that it was not like global or anything, that it was for you? For
me, yeah. In my
okay. Yeah. Or a second, I thought that you were saying that it's like for everyone in the world, and I was like, wow, no. That's pretty hardcore. Okay, is it a timeless piece?
I would say yes. There's nothing that anchors this to the early 2000s when it was created. It does a pretty good job of. I'm not going to say there are no anachronisms, but it does evoke the late 80s feel. I think. While I didn't particularly like the film, if I watched it in 25 years, I would have the same experience. So I would say it's timeless in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with movies, that they try to be stuck on a specific period of time. That is like, no. My point is about the transition and the fall of the world. That is like, okay, you need to portray that area in an accurate way. And it does a good job. That's it. As the directing is not that strong for just having like a specific style or anything, is like it's always going to be functional. It's always going to be from that time. And the topic is fine. It's about like the kid like just trying to protect the mother because he feels like she gave her life for him.
And also the capitalists versus socialists, the whole like Soviet Union. I mean, these are timeless themes. But it's just so disappointing. There's nothing more about it.
Yeah, could you turn it into a TV show?
Absolutely not.
No, I mean the 2 hours, it was like 30 minutes longer than it should have been.
We say this a lot, but they really could have cut out 45 minutes of them tricking the mother. They could have cut out at least half of the narration in the first 40 minutes, and it would have been a tight, maybe even interesting little film, but they just dragged it on so much.
Yeah. And this actually connects to the next question. Do you think that this movie could have been better?
Yeah, I think it needed a much more specific point of view, like an opinion either of what happened then or about the characters. I think it just got so muddled by not knowing what it wants to be, or just maybe the director not knowing how to create what he wanted to create.
Yeah, no, I fully agree on that. I think that for me is the same. That is, it falls into the middle of nowhere. It's like going from one movie to another, and then just saying, like, let's just place here because it's closer to Life is Beautiful, but at the same time, it's a think piece, so we can be like just in between both. It's like, if you don't commit, it's like at the end you end up with this. That is still okay, but I will never watch again.
It is okay, and I feel like when we give our scores, it might be a little bit surprising what they are because I have so many complaints.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, but I think that it's interesting, like just having complaints about a movie because it's like we see the potential for being more than what it actually was at the end. I think that's fine. I mean, I think there is a bit more of a this is our vision over the movie that someone else created a vision.
Don't like end up being a 15-minute podcast. So.
Yeah, I think this could be like a bit longer, a tiny bit longer. But we are not going to get to the length of the movie. Should we score it?
We should.
All right, so this was my pick. What is your score?
So I came into the recording thinking I was going to give it a 6. I am going to give it a 6.5. This is above a mediocre film. It's not successful in my opinion, but there's a little bit more there than just like your average Marvel movie.
I think that if you actually take like a Marvel moviegoer to watch this, it will try to kill you. This is not.
Where's Black Widow?
Exactly. Is that this is not a mainstream blockbuster kind of movie. It's like it actually makes me think about like we used to live in a better place when this movie was released, and in Spain, this actually gets some publicity. You know, there is there is this movie. You know, there is a comedy. Is that I remember like just watching the ads and watching like the reviews and everything. And this one, if it was released in the States, it could be in a landmark theater, like just a single showing on Tuesdays at 10 p.m.
And I think it would even get that because this feels like an intellectual / art house film, but it's inoffensive 100%. So like people go to it and they feel smart, but there's nothing to like really make them think or be offended.
Well, I mean, it's the kind of thing that we say from time to time. Well, I should give my score. My score is a 7 because I give it like credit, you know, about like, I think that there are things here that they could have been more, but at least it actually just triggered like some conversations that I didn't think about when I was watching it. I thought, and it's true that I think that this might be more of my problem about like just trying to give more credit to movies and to directors than it actually has. You know, and it's like, I think in this case, it's like there could have been more, and I think that the elements for having more were there. But it's like
that statement I would agree with. Everything was there to be something better.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, but it's like you can still, if you start like just doing like some excavation, you know, if you start like doing like some digging, you can find those elements, and when you put them together, you can make on your brain that movie that is better. That is like, from my perspective, it would be like closer to the Marriage of Maria Brown. Yeah, a bit more. It's like, hey, yeah, we know that this is all symbolism. It's like it's not about like making sense. It's about like just bringing an idea to the table. Let's just forget all the melodrama, and it's like this is about not even like character progression. Well, character progression, yes, but the character progression represents something else.
And get rid of the 40-minute long ironic narration. Just tell the story.
Yep. I understand the foreshadowing of the cosmonaut and everything, but man, that beginning, I think that I had to pause it or whatever, and then I couldn't actually just find at what point I was, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in the 5 minutes. It's like, no, because the first 5 minutes are about the same, about like the childhood of the kid watching the cosmonaut. That is like, do you need 5 minutes for this? Do you need so many ideas and concepts here? Do you need like a 2-hour movie for doing this?
90 minutes later, that guy was going to show up as a taxi driver, and we were supposed to finally understand how the great have fallen. I got so annoyed when the astronaut was the taxi driver. I was like, okay, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Yeah, we get it. So, we already scored. I think that we just need to move on with our lives. Is that this is over? Is that it's behind us now? So what are we going to watch next? As is your pick?
So, I didn't come into this recording with a strong idea of something I wanted to watch, so I asked you, why don't you take my gift, my housewarming gift to Chicago to you as your pick?
No. I think I'm turning it back. It's like, just pick something else. My housewarming gift is you coming here. And we're going to be like recording. We will be recording like 4 times in that bars during that time.
Jose joked about me picking Vertigo by Hitchcock because I'm not a big Hitchcock fan, and I thought, yes, now's my chance. We're gonna watch Vertigo and we're gonna rip it apart together.
Okay, let's see how that goes. Alright, anything else to say about this? About Goodbye Lenin?
Nothing about Goodbye Lenin. Ultimately a disappointment, but I respect the attempt.
Yeah. I think that is like one of those like fail attempts that we like to see. About like, it was not amazing, but let's just give it like a bump because I'm trying to do like something different. So that's good. Well, man, to everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. It's like the pandemic is mostly over, except the Delta variant that it will kill us all in some months.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Delta variants out there, wash your hands.
Yeah, keep washing your hands. And even if the Delta variant and we get to the Gamma variant, it's like, just keep washing your hands. It's like, don't be a pig. All right. Bye.